MTG Scoundrels, it's in the cardboard. Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have 5-color creativity versus Sultai Insidious Roots. Starting with a Misty Rainforest and passing. Tap Triome and passing. Cracking on the end step. Finding a tapped Breeding Pool. Bringing us to 20 to 19. Untapping, drawing. Urza's Saga as land for turn. Into Philology Archaeologist, mill in 3. Bringing back an Agatha Soul Cauldron, passing the turn. Wooded Foothills, passing. Saga trigger. Untapped Overgrown Tomb. Now in the tank here for a little bit. Still in the tank for a little bit, and passing. Cracking the Wooded Foothills on end step here. For an untapped Steam Vents, bringing us to 17 to 17. Into a Deduce, a somewhat recent card from Murders at Karlov Manor. Draws a card, makes a clue token. Untapping, drawing. Playing the untapped Sacred Foundry. Into a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. It triggers, makes a 2/2 Goblin Shaman token. When it attacks, it makes a treasure token. End step. Activating the Urza Saga, making a construct. Drawing, in response to the trigger, making another construct. Probably finding cookbook here. Yes, indeed. Finding the Underworld cookbook. Those constructs are currently 3/3s. Going to combat, attack him for 3. Activating the cookbook, discarding a card, making a food to get in for 4 here. Bringing us to 11 to 17. Fable trigger on the stack. Discarding 1 card, drawing a card. Not a bad board state for the Roots player. Untap Steam Vents. Into a Teferi Time Raveler. Taking the Teferi down, killing a construct. Prismatic Ending. Targeting the Underworld cookbook. Attacking for 2. To make a treasure token, it'll get blocked by the archaeologist. Land for turn. Playing a Grist the Hungertide. In response, there is the Mana Tithe. That'll counter the Grist. Untapping, drawing. Fable will flip. Another untapped shock land here. Bringing us to 7 to 17. And passing after activating the Teferi, plussing it for 1. There's an Agatha Soul Cauldron. And a Haywire Mite. There is the indomitable creativity. Sacking 2 tokens in this instance. So we will see 2 Archons of Cruelty hit the battlefield here. Yeah, that's 2 Archons of Cruelty hitting the battlefield. So we'll sack 2 creatures, drain for 6, and discard 2 cards. And draw 2 cards. Arguably the best non-legendary creature ever printed. Discarding 2 cards. Sacrificing 2 creatures. Activating the Agatha Soul Cauldron, targeting the Grist, putting the +1/+1 counter on the Haywire Mite. This is all still in the second main phase. Slight mistake here. That should be a separate counter, not a +1/+1 counter for the uptick of Grist. But that'll do it. Game 1 going to 5-color creativity. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Appreciate all of you that have left messages in the comments. Keep it coming. Sideboarding decisions for both here. Would not be surprised if a certain amount of removal comes in for the Insidious Roots list to try to help mitigate those Archons. And the same can be said, really, from the 5-color creativity player trying to keep creatures off the battlefield for the Roots player. Probably a little bit of graveyard hate as well. And as always, deck lists can be found in the description below, as well as timestamps for each of the individual games. And if you're interested in finding tokens, please check out our friends over at Arcane Artistry. They make awesome stained glass tokens. Currently they have food, clues, and treasures available in the stained glass style. Definitely check them out. Moving on to game 2 here. Looks like both players are on 6. Starting with a Misty Rainforest being cracked for the Roots player. Finding an Overgrown Tomb, bringing us to 20 to 17. Playing an Underworld Cookbook and passing the turn. Aaron Mesa cracking it. To Prismatic ending the Underworld Cookbook. And looks like we'll have an Oval Chase Daredevil loop be done in response, putting a food onto the battlefield and passing the turn. Whew, missing the second land drop there for the Roots player. Untapped Stomping Ground for creativity. Playing a red and 6. Upticking, putting the Arid Mesa back into hand. Currently at 15 to 17. Oh, another miss of the land drop. Friends, if there's one thing I could tell you, definitely don't keep one-landers. Just don't do it. There's a fetch land, though, to try to catch up. Cracking it. Finding a watery grave. And playing an Insidious Roots. Last few videos we haven't actually been able to get Roots onto the battlefield. We'll see how long it lasts. And now it looks like playing a Walking Ballista for 0 to put it in the graveyard. Cracking the Arid Mesa here on the end step. Of course, the fun thing here is if you get a Soul Cauldron down and you exile the Walking Ballista, every one of those tokens that gets made off Insidious Roots then has the ability of Walking Ballista. And that kind of just grows every time a creature leaves the graveyard. So that's a big deal. Looks like yep, there's a prismatic ending, getting rid of the Insidious Roots. Fairly hard to leave that sitting on the battlefield for a turn cycle. Uptaking the Ren and 6, getting the land back, putting it onto the battlefield. There is an Urza's Saga. And there's the Soul Cauldron. So correct play by the creativity player, getting rid of the roots. There's an Emery. Milling 4. Soul Cauldron getting activated. Exiling the Walking Ballista. Putting a counter on Emery. And passing the turn. Arid Mesa being cracked here. Finding a Dwarven Mine. One of the key ways for creativity to be able to find a token. Untapping and drawing. Uptaking the Ren and 6. Breaking out the Arid Mesa. And there's the Transmogrify. Usually the backup play for creativity players. Finding the Archon of Cruelty. ETB, drain for 3. Discard a card, draw a card. Sack a creature. Looks like the Roots player putting in Oval-Chase Daredevil into the bin. Untapping and drawing. There is a Pick Your Poison. One of the best sideboard cards to be printed out of Murders at Karlov Manor. And passing the turn. Cracking the fetch here, finding a Triome, bringing us to 15 to 11. Untapping and drawing. Upticking the Ren and 6, getting the Arid Mesa, playing it for turn. And passing. Looks like deciding to exile the Prismatic Ending in the opposing graveyard and cracking the food to gain 3 life, bringing us to 15 to 14. Untapping, drawing. Probably should have hit the Transmogrify there. That fetch can go find another Dwarven Mine, and these 5-color creativity decks do tend to play at least 4. Which is funny to say because you can only play 4, but I digress. Making the Construct in response to the trigger of Urza Saga. Triggering the Oval-Chase Daredevil, putting it to hand. Which I believe earlier there was in fact a missed trigger for the Oval-Chase Daredevil. Tough thing about playing these kinds of decks, there's all sorts of stuff you got to be keeping track of. Looks like finding the Ozolith here off the 3rd chapter of Urza Saga. That's a little cheeky. Not a bad card with Insidious Roots, considering if a Roots token has counters on it, with the Ozolith being out in play, all those counters will go on the Ozolith. Soul Cauldron, exiling another Prismatic Ending and passing the turn. But really, it's pretty much in a no-win situation here because no pressure being applied to the Ren and 6. Arid Mesa finding the Dwarven Mine, making the token. Ultimating the Wrenn and 6, something you don't see every day. All instants and sorceries in the graveyard for the 5-color player will now have retrace. Discarding a land, retracing Transmogrify, finding an Archon, yep, there's the Archon. Discarding the Oval Chase Daredevil. Draining of 3, sacrificing a creature. Creativity should be drawing a card here as well. There it is. And pass in the turn. Tough spot, really. Another Pick Your Poison would be great. Otherwise, this game's pretty much over. There's a tapped Overgrown Tomb. Playing a Springleaf Drum to put the Oval Chase Daredevil back in hand. Exiling the Transmogrify. And passing the turn. Archon swinging in. That's going to be 9 damage in total. 3 life gained for the Archon player, or for the Creativity player, and there's a Lightning Bolt. That'll wrap it up. Game, set, match. Go into 5-color Creativity. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. Modern Horizons 3 coming out here very soon. So expect some shakeups here in the modern format. Once again, that was 5-color Creativity taking down the match. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you all next week.